Rock and roll, here we go, baby. We back. Rock and roll, welcome back. Hello there. Hello, welcome back to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories. I'm your host, Jay. We're going to do part 2 of our Jimmy Nichol story. All right, so let's rewind a little bit. Where were we? 1964, Adelaide, Australia. Jimmy has 2 last shows to do. But Brian Epstein and Ringo Star are on their way to meet them. Okay, June 12th. The first Adelaide concert, Jimmy plays his ass off. He's just really giving it his all. I mean, he literally only has 2 shows left until Ringo takes over. So the place is crazed. You know, there's screaming teenagers all over the place. One employee reported that after the show was over, the whole place stunk of piss because all of these like teenage girls were peeing their pants. Yeah. All right. So party time. Paul and John are really enjoying this like rotating door of like fresh, like, you know, Beatlemania fans coming in and out. They're enjoying it. So there's from the inexperience to the experience, it's just a party. It's Beatlemania. And it's one after the next. And it was told that some virgin Beatle fanatic requested that she could take home the blood-stained sheets as a memento. Okay? Yikes. George Harrison, no. He's on his phone. He's calling his girlfriend's Patty Boyd. We'll have to definitely do an episode on that down the line, but no. George is not doing it. That's just the Paul and John and Paul thing. There's like these stacks and stacks of autograph books that are left by Beatles fans for the Beatles to sign, but they're actually signed by Mal Evans and the roadies doing their best impressions of Beatles autographs because the boys are way too busy. June 13. Jimmy finishes the 6,000 plus fan concert and wraps up his duty as a fill-in Beatle drummer. Paul McCartney on stage thanks Jimmy in front of thousands of fans for what he's done. Let's go to the Southern Cross Hotel in Melbourne, where the 3 Beatles plus Jimmy Nichol are going to meet with Ringo Starr and Brian Epstein. It's packed with people, man. It's so chaotic. So there's a shitload of fans, and the police create like a little diversion. They have all these different cars, and they do like some little diversion tactic where they're able to have a car as a decoy where all the fans run after one car while the rest of the Beatles escape in another car. All right. So, the fans figure it out, but it really pisses them off that they chased after the wrong car. So they're all running back to the hotel, like banging on like the flimsy glass windows of the hotel. Even some of these teenage kids like are able to get in, like hiding in laundry bags that the like cleaners bring in. Okay, so Jimmy shakes hands with Ringo at the hotel. Ringo and Jimmy shake hands, and it's sort of like this changing of the guard, A press conference is held, and Jimmy gets like way too many questions. He's like talking over the Beatles, and Brian Epstein gets pissed about this. So back at the hotel, Brian Epstein sort of kind of admonishes Jimmy for talking over the other guys. Like, the hell, who do you think you are? Jimmy's kind of fights back a little bit. He's like, well, I was the drummer. What do you think? So it's, there's a little tiff between Jimmy Nichol and Brian Epstein, which kind of goes to Jimmy's head. Anyway, so Jimmy's done, and Epstein, like, this is still the press conference. Epstein is announcing that there's rules for the Beatles where they need to turn in at midnight. Like, that's it. There's rules for these guys. But at 2:30 a.m., Jimmy sneaks out. Like, no, man, I'm out of here. Like, no one knows me. I can get out and go have a good time. So he does, but Mal Evans and Neil Aspinall are sent to go collect the guy, saying, you can't go out. Jimmy's pissed off. He's saying, I can do whatever the hell I want. I'm not a Beatle. They say, you are a Beatle until we put your ass on an airplane and get you the hell out of here. Epstein was kind of paranoid that Jimmy would, drink, party, and just like talk shit about the Beatles behind their back or anything. So he couldn't have like anything like that. So they grab him, throw him in the car, and take him back to the hotel. All right, June 15, 1964. Jimmy goes back to London. He is no longer a Beatle. He did 12 days with the Beatles. All right, so the Dave Clark Five, the band from the 60s, their drummer, Dave Clark, is out because of an ulcer, and they need a drummer. They were supposed to play a few shows at this Winter Gardens in a little city called Blackpool. And so instead of doing the Dave Clark Five, they put in Jimmy Nichol and his band, the Shub Dubs. They got back together. So it's on the top of the bill. The other bands that are playing at the same place are just kind of like pissed off. Like, why the hell why is there like a drummer headlining? Like, what is the big deal? So there's a lot of feelings, like ill feelings toward Jimmy. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And he's like, dude, I was a Beatle for 12 days. Who the fuck? Yeah, I know who I am. Anyway, so Jimmy was also quoted as at this time saying, "Hey, how come these guys never call me?" Like, he's like, the guys never gave me a call. Never called to say hi. All right, so Jimmy Nichol and the Shub Dubs got a few gigs opening for the Beatles in Blackpool. And Jimmy sees that George Harrison arrives in a Jaguar and he's like, man, I should get a Jaguar too. I should be driving a Jaguar. The Shub Dubs, he introduces the Shub Dubs to the Beatles, and it's okay. There's nothing weird. It's all good. It's like, hey, what's up, guys? It's pleasant. And Jimmy is he's still productive, and he's supporting a single out on 45. The Jimmy Nichol and the Shub Dubs have a song called Husky. It's kind of jazzy, it's kind of rocky, it's cool. But it doesn't really get any attention. And I heard the song. It's interesting. It's kind of. I like everything that he does, Jimmy Nichol, after the Beatles. It's the production value is high. It's really good. It's kind of jazzy. It's kind of like the Booker T and the MGs kind of sound. All right, so things are not so good at home. He and his wife Pat are constantly arguing. She's sick of the excessive spending. He's never at home doing anything with the family. In September of 1964, In September of 1964, Jimmy Nichol receives 5,000 letters from female fans from Australia. That kind of pisses off his wife. So that's like, yeah, I'm done. So, and also he gets a Jaguar, like George Harrison has. So he gets a Jaguar, and he likes to speed really fast, and he gets ticketed a lot. And he's in the paper, like, ticketed again, Jimmy Nichol. He's not making any money, though. He's just doing these fly-by-night shows. There's not like a tour or anything like that. And he's a band leader. So for the Shub Dubs, he has to pay for their wardrobes. He has to pay for the hotel, for the food and everything. So eventually the gigs for the Jimmy Nichol and the Shub-Dubs just they dry up. It's like, well, he was the fifth Beatle, but so what, The group disbands. Jimmy Nichol becomes very bitter and believes that Brian Epstein, Beatles manager, had just blacklisted Jimmy. It's not true, though. He played well with the Beatles for 12 days. He moved on, and they're like, thank you for your work. Take care. See you later. On top of everything, Pie Records, who had signed with Jimmy Nichol and the Shub-Dubs, they are dropped. So they're no longer on a label. So, January 1965, Jimmy Nichol decides to get a manager. And he works with a guy named Tommy Sanders and a producer named Ken Jones, who had some success working with the band The Zombies. The Zombies had that song, Tell Her No, 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 No. That's a good song. He also gets Jimmy signed to Decca, where his new band will be called The Sound of Jimmy Nichol. He records with a 7-piece band, and Jimmy borrows money from all over the place. Like, he has to pay the equivalent of about like $20,000 for like studio time for these musicians, and like he's very dedicated, but he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have any money. So anyway, April 1965, The Sound of Jimmy Nichol. They have a show. George Harrison comes to support the guy. Like, he thinks that the Beatles don't like him. Oh, they'll never call me. No, but they're the Beatles. They're probably fucking busy, right? Anyway, George Harrison shows up and to check out the Jimmy Nichol show. And George orders a drink and has the waiter send it to Jimmy. Like, in between shows, they're doing a first set, second set. But Jimmy declines it. He takes it as like, oh yeah, you're trying to buy me off, like, because you screwed me over, because you blacklisted me. I'm not taking your drink. But no, it was George Harrison was like, hey, buddy, man, let me get you a drink. So poor Jimmy, Decca eventually drops him because it was a short contract. If you failed to chart, you're out. And he invested like £4,000 in equipment. All the money to pay the band just kind of dissolves. So in the papers at this time, there's an article called The Rise and Fall of the Fifth Beatles. It's like they're really jumping on this. They even have a quote from Jimmy saying, Jimmy says, standing in for Ringo was the worst thing that ever happened to me. All right, so I listened to the Jimmy Nichol sound. It's interesting. It's not bad. I found it on YouTube. Go ahead, try Jimmy Nichol sound. It's the production value is really high. It's music is very lively. You could say it's like period music because it sounds like 1960s like swinging London sound. Like, it sounds like the Austin Powers soundtrack. It sounds exactly like that with a lot of organ, Booker T and the MG sound, that Mose Allison jazzy sound. If you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, look up Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. Look up Seventh Son by Mose Allison. And then to top it off, listen by Clementine by The Sound of Jimmy Nichol. That's the song. The Clementine. That was like their hit that they tried to put out. That failed. All right. Another little quote by Jimmy. He says, the only honest way was to go bankrupt. And I admit I failed. What about the future? Nothing. There's nothing for me now. Calm down, Jimmy. Jeez Louise, The word spreads. Everyone thinks Jimmy's a failure, and, even Ringo Star responds. He said, I didn't think he could fail. No one thought he could fail. So this is unbelievable. It's like, fuck, leave the guy alone. And the papers keep like having these articles on it. Like the fifth Beatle. Here's an article headline. The fifth Beatle, job hunting. So, More detailed notes about it. Jimmy is, in the article, Jimmy has signed on to the Labour Exchange, Britain's, British government's workforce program. It's intended to help the unemployed find work. Poor Jimmy, right? On top of that, they also published that Jimmy owes about £30 overdue to alimony to his wife and child. Wow. So, Paul McCartney sees this, and he anonymously sends some money to Jimmy, and to pay off that little debt he had. All right, Paul, good job. Here's some good news, though. Like, everyone in England seeing how the jumping on Jimmy like this. So Paul is dating Jane Asher. Jane Asher's brother is Peter Asher. It's one half of the vocal band Peter and Gordon, and they need a drummer. So thank you, Beatle Paul. Jimmy gets a very much needed gig. All right, 1965, the Swedish band the SPOTNICKS are very famous in Sweden, and they are in need of a drummer. They know all about Jimmy Nichol's story, and they contact him. Jimmy says, hell yeah, and they need a permanent member. He says, hell fucking yeah. All right, so he joins the SPOTNICKS, and they're quite successful in Sweden, as I said. At the time of the charts, for example, everywhere you went, the Beatles were number 1, but in Sweden, the SPOTNICKS were number 9. Not bad, right? All right, so the SPOTNICKS are about to go on a world tour, and they arrive in New York to start the tour, but due to union rules, they can't play. Anyway, they enjoy doing touristy things around New York. They go to Mexico City and have some pretty successful concerts down there. They move on to Japan, and they are that is Beatlemania in Japan, the SPOTNICKS. The band refuses. They don't want to, but they're forced to wear these little shiny aluminum foil astronaut outfits. The Japanese fans love it. They're freaking out. Jimmy's digging it because he likes the fact that they play double their time on the stage versus what the Beatles were doing. Twice as much. And on stage, they have a sweet rocket ship with the words SPOTNICKS painted on the fuselage. So, the show would begin, the band would land on stage, the astronauts would come out, and it's time to rock and roll. And then they would, Jimmy gets to do these long drum solos, and the cool thing is his Swedish bandmates, they like Jimmy. They know his background, we're all together. This isn't you're a replacement, you're us. You're a Spotnik like us. So during the Japanese tour, the fans would go nuts. Spotniks kicking it off with their Spotnik theme. You can see this on YouTube. Look it up. Spotnik theme. The one that I watched was on live Dutch TV. Spotniks theme. And that clip is about 1964. So it looks like they wear these costumes. It really looks like when David Bowie would do the Ziggy Stardust character, these shiny outfits with the boots and everything. And the music, it sounds like early 60s, surf rock, instrumental stuff. Okay, the band is pretty successful, sold out concerts. Thanks to their hit, the little sweet surf rock slow ballad instrumental called Carolia. Look that one up. It's a nice little song, Carolia, SPOTNICKS. Good news for our hero Jimmy. He feels a part of this band. He's an official Spotnik. So they're about to leave Japan, which they conquered, right? And they have sold 1 million copies of Karelia. The Spotniks finished their tour, the world tour. They arrive back in Sweden, where they are happy to find that they are they were bought a brand new Mercedes-Benz tour bus, which they'll use for regional tours and stuff. The Billboard announces that the Spotnicks are number 1 in Japan. And then they record their first album. They record a song on the album called Vostok 6. The title is the name of the spacecraft of Valentika Tereshkova. She is the world's first female astronaut, or I would say cosmonaut, since she's Russian. They play the song for her. She's deeply moved. She gives each member, like the Spotnicks, like a pin with like the Russian space emblem on it. It's like kind of a big deal, man. It's kind of cool. I listened to their first album, Spotnicks in Tokyo. That's their first one, Spotnicks in Tokyo. It's really good. Great recording. It's like surf rock. If you like surf rock, check it out. That summer, the Spotnicks record a Christmas album that they're gonna, throw out there in December. It's 12 songs that they recorded in 95-degree weather, which they would take little breaks to jump in the pool. I like it. I like, on that album, I like Here Comes Santa Claus. Put on this Christmas. Put on, when everyone's listening to the, Bing Crosby stuff. Put on Here Comes Santa Claus by the Spotnicks. Okay, it's, can't get better than that, but Jimmy gets a little bored. It's really not the type of music that he likes, he's kind of more jazzy. He likes it a little like more intricate, like time signatures and things like that. So he gets a little bored. So he is a Spotnik, and on the account of the immediate attention, they take him in as well. Media is saying, no wonder he feels like he has finally come home. On his business card, he can write Jimmy Nichol or Spotnicks. It does not matter which. Now the two concepts mean the same for him. Yes, but as I said, Jimmy's a little bored. 1966. It's just more of the same, and it's success, but it's just not enough for him. So, entertain himself or whatever, he just increases his marijuana intake. He likes it. He digs it. One night, he introduces marijuana to his buddy, his roommate, his fellow Spotnik, Peter Winsness. Peter says, here's Peter's quote, Jimmy opened the window and lit up his joint, sucked on it, held the smoke deep down and blew out the window. Then he handed it over to me. He told me to hold the smoke deep down in my lungs for as long as I could. It was the first time for me, but the effect came immediately when we finally made it to the Bill Haley show. So they went to a Bill Haley and the Comets concert. So he says, I had the greatest, happiest experience of swinging rock and roll. All right, so Peter Wisness likes it so much that he introduces it to the rest of the band, and Peter Wisness becomes a quote-unquote weed prophet to the band. All right, so 1966, the Spotnicks go on another world tour, and they get to Mexico City. Jimmy doesn't really bother showing up to rehearsals. He's kind of found like a group of buddies to go party with. He likes to get fucked up with these guys. He doesn't really commit to being a Spotnik anymore. So they fire him. And they fly in a new drummer from Sweden to finish off the tour. Jimmy says, fuck it, I'm going to stay in Mexico City. His weed buddy, Peter, says, is quoted saying, Jimmy Nichol just disappeared into the Mexico night. Wow. All right. So Jimmy falls in love with Mexico City. He learns the language. He likes the nightlife. He quickly starts up a band. He gets steady work. He gets gigs. He's, it's interesting because at the moment, the mayor of Mexico City is quickly shuts down any type of rock and roll nightlife, any type of rock and roll nightlife scene, shutting those things down, right? So Jimmy reaches out to, his name is Luis Kutalek, who was the president of the RCA Victor Mexicana, the record label. He met him the first time they came out there for the Mexico City tour, and they kind of bonded, and they kind of said, like, you know what, I'll see you next time. We'll do something together. So yeah, Kutalek is impressed with Jimmy, and it's perfect timing because Kutalek is right now set out to find the next big thing. So let me explain here. So at the time of the leading record companies in Mexico, they're still only putting out like traditional music, and rock and roll really hasn't hit hard in Mexico yet, you know? And there is like an age group of people, let's say the book said 15 to 30-year-olds who are not interested in the traditional, you know, Mexicans. They want rock and roll. So, they want rock and roll. So Kutalek enlists Jimmy to be an A&R man and to find the next big thing. It's a race. It's a race, really, because there's a competition going on between RCA, Victor Mexicana, CBS, and RCA Victor Mexicana is one, CBS is another, and Capital de Mexico is another. Right? There's three. Armando de Llano, the president of CBS, is quoted saying, "The principal problem today is we haven't been giving the teenage market the music it wants, but we are seeking the new Mexican sound maker, the idol. There's no one now, but one of us is going to find him." Guess whose job is that? Jimmy Nichol. Jimmy Nichol's job is to find the next big rock and roll idol of Mexico. Wow. I'm going to stop right here. Isn't it? What a life this guy does. You know, first it's like, do you want to be in the Beatles? And next, he's the number one band of Sweden. And now it's like your job is to find the biggest guy from Mexico. It's just an incredible story. That's it. That's part 2, all right? So you're going to have to stick around. Is Jimmy going to find the next big rock and roll star from Mexico? We're going to have to wait and see. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back to Jay's Rock and Roll Show, Jay's Rock and Roll Stories. Send an email to Jay's Rock and Roll Stories at proton.me. I think there's a Facebook. Hey, guys, did you make a Facebook? Sort of. All right, I think they sort of made one. So if you look on Facebook, Jay's Rock and Roll Stories, like sort of. Okay. Anyway, if you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed this podcast, tell the world. Give me 5 stars and whatever you're listening to. Spotify, whatever. You know, do your thing. Anyway, come back for part 3. Come back for part 3.